Howdy there, Earthlings! Look who just wandered out of the jukebox wasteland into the heart of your honky-tonk ignorance. I'm Melvin, your intergalactic know-it-all, here to find out if you're a real country outlaw or just another karaoke cowboy. This quiz covers the whole saddle, from sparkly country crossover gems to legends, heartbreak, whiskey, and rebellion. So grab your hat, tighten your belt buckle, and let's see if your brain can two-step through this boot-scootin' barrage of trivia. Giddy up! Level 1. Easy riding. Let's start simple, before you hurt yourself trying to spell Merle. Which debut single became Diamond Rio's first #1 in 1991? Meet in the Middle. Shania Twain's album Come On Over was released in what year? (1997). Tin Man was the second single from whose 1994 debut album? Kenny Chesney. Which 2016 Little Big Town hit was written by Taylor Swift? Better Man. Who released the single Beautiful Crazy in 2018? Luke Combs. What year did Loretta Lynn release her autobiographical hit Coal Miner's Daughter? (1970). World on Fire was a 2023 release for which artist? Nate Smith. Toby Keith wrote the song Don't Let the Old Man In after a conversation he had with which prominent actor/director? Clint Eastwood. Who released What Was I Thinkin' in 2003? Dierks Bentley. What a Song Can Do is a 2021 album for which group? Lady A. The certified platinum single F-150 was released by which Canadian artist? Robin Ottolini. Which artist released the album Tailgates and Tan Lines in 2011? Luke Bryan. Brad Paisley released his debut album in June of 1999. What was the title? Who Needs Pictures? Released in January 1996, who sang Heads Carolina, Tails California? Joe D. Messina. Faith Hill won a Best Country Album Grammy in 2001 for which record? Breathe. Die a Happy Man is a 2015 hit for which artist? Thomas Rhett. Who released the album titled Kerosene in 2005? Miranda Lambert. What trio released the album Nothing Like This in 2010? Rascal Flatts. Which group's second album, released in 2005, was titled The Road to Here? Little Big Town. Which artist recorded Heart Like a Truck in 2022? Lainey Wilson. Before going solo and country, Darius Rucker was in what notable band? Hootie and the Blowfish. Her 11th album, titled Heaven, Heartache and the Power of Love, was released by who in 2007? Trisha Yearwood. What is the title of Chris Stapleton's most recent album, released in 2023? Higher. Released in August of 2003, Cowboys Like Us was a hit for which artist? George Strait. 1995's Souvenirs is one of 6 compilation albums of which artist's work? Vince Gill. Level 2, Honky Tonk Hustle. Now we're getting rowdy. Time to see who's the real outlaw and who's just all hat and no cattle. Which 1990 Garth Brooks hit opens with "Blame it all on my roots, I showed up in boots"? Friends in Low Places. What artist's debut album was Sinners Like Me, released in 2006? Eric Church. Which Willie Nelson song served as the theme for the 1979 film The Electric Horseman? My Heroes Have Always Been Cowboys. That's the Thing About a Memory was the very first single for which artist in 1992? Tracy Bird. At the CMA Awards in 2018, who won Entertainer of the Year? Keith Urban. Well, that dog won't hunt. What year was Tim McGraw's Live Like You Were Dying released? June 2004. Whose real full name is Randy Bruce Trawick? Randy Travis. Which band first recorded Boot Scootin' Boogie in 1990? Asleep at the Wheel. What are the first names of the duo known as Brooks and Dunn? Kix Brooks and Ronnie Dunn. Which band started off in 1992 under the name Texas Sea? Lone Star. Which duo released Tequila in 2018? Dan and Shay. Who wrote Little Bitty, Alan Jackson's 1996 number 1? Tom T. Hall. Name the 2 artists who released the duet Murder on Music Row in 2000. George Strait, and Alan Jackson? Which 2005 Josh Turner hit includes Baby Lock the Door and Turn the Lights Down Low? Your Man. One Night Standards was the first single from whose second studio album titled Never Will? Ashley McBryde, who won a Best Male Country Performance Grammy Award in 1977 for I'm a Stand By My Woman Man. Ronnie Milsap, who had a 1988 #1 hit with 18 Wheels and a Dozen Roses. Kathy Mattea, which 2012 Florida-Georgia Line hit set a then-record 24 weeks at #1 on Hot Country Songs. Cruise. Although now a US citizen, Keith Urban was born where? Whangarei, New Zealand. Released in 1967, Dolly Parton's debut album was titled what? Hello, I'm Dolly. What are the first names of the Bellamy brothers? David Milton and Homer Howard. Which artist's fourth studio album was 1991's Pocketful of Gold? Vince Gill. Two of a Kind, Working on a Full House was a 1991 single for which artist? Garth Brooks, who had a hit debut song and album released in 2017 titled Every Little Thing. Carly Pearce, whose 11th album titled Mountain Soul was released in 2001. Patti Loveless. Level 3. Whiskey-Fueled Wisdom. This is where the country trivia greats shine, or where pretenders cry into their beer. Hope you brought some grit, cowboy. Which artist had a one-off fictional rock persona named Chris Gaines? Garth Brooks. The American Country Music Association, ACMA, named which Canadian artist Global Artist of the Year for 2005? Paul Brandt. Which Deanna Carter hit tells a coming-of-age story at 17? Strawberry Wine. In 1970, Merle Haggard released an album titled A Tribute to the Best Damn Fiddle Player in the World, dedicated to whom? Bob Wills. You're about as country as a soy latte in a mason jar. After a 14-year hiatus, which long-running country band released Southern Drawl in 2015? Alabama. Which 2003 debut single introduced Dierks Bentley with a radio #1? What Was I Thinking? Harold Lloyd Jenkins is the birth name for which classic country artist? Conway Twitty. Which artist had a #1 hit in 1984 with Deborah Allen's song, Let's Stop Talking About It? Janie Fricke. Which artist posthumously won a 1998 Grammy Hall of Fame award for his album Behind Closed Doors? Charlie Rich. Which artist's backup band, recording 14 studio albums with him as well as 4 live albums, were called the Statesiders? Mel Tillis. Which artist started out as a competitor on season 6 of The Voice? Morgan Wallen. What was the lead-off single from Keith Urban's 2002 album, Golden Road? Somebody Like You. Whose song El Paso won the Grammy Award for Best Country and Western Recording in 1961? Marty Robbins. Billy Ray Cyrus didn't write Achy Breaky Heart. Who did? Don Von Tress, whose 1993 debut single later became the most played country song of the 1990s on radio. Toby Keith's Should Have Been a Cowboy. Which 2 artists released competing versions of How Do I Live in 1997? Leanne Rimes and Trisha Yearwood. The first being released in 1994. Kenny Chesney has released how many studio albums as of 2025? Which Rascal Flatts 2005 #1 originated from the Nitty Gritty Dirt Band in 1994? Bless the Broken Road. Don't Fall in Love with a Dreamer was a duet hit for Kenny Rogers and which female singer-songwriter? Kim Carnes. Which country songstress was featured on Oklahoma's The Flaming Lips 2020 single titled Flowers of Neptune 6? Casey Musgraves. Reba McEntire's first top 20 single as a solo artist was a cover of a cover of a cover of which country ballad? Don Gibson's Sweet Dreams. Which country music icon was once a baseball pitcher in the Class C farm team for the New York Yankees? Charlie Pride, who released the single One Man Band in 2019. Old Dominion. Which Tim McGraw single is nicknamed the Barbecue Stain song? Something Like That. As the first edition was breaking up, Kenny Rogers was the face of a national commercial advertising what? the quick-pickin', fun-strummin' home guitar course.
Well, butter my brain and call me Hank. You actually survived. Did you conquer that bull, or was that rougher than a bar fight in Bakersfield? Some of you proved you've got country in your veins, and the rest? You couldn't find Nashville with a GPS and a map. Go on, hit that like button before your pride limps home. Subscribe for another round in the Brainiacs Trivia Vortex, and remember, outlaws don't cry. They just reload and play the next quiz. Melvin, out. Oh, you're leaving? Bold of you to assume your brain can survive out there without more of me. Click one of these before your IQ drops further.